We know the White House is now giving those with student loans additional time to make payments on their loans, freezing loan payments for the next 4 months and extending a moratorium that has allowed millions of Americans to postpone these kind of payments. Borrowers won't have to pay until after August 31st, and interest rates on loans are expected to remain at 0% during that period, a decision made because of rising concern that large numbers of Americans may fall behind on payments if they were to restart. But are all Americans on board with canceling student debt? And what sort of impact could doing this actually have on the U.S. economy? We're breaking it down today with ABC News Deputy Political Director Averi Harper and Wisdom Cole, the National Director of the NAACP Youth and College Division. Welcome to you both. Let's get right into this. Averi, what loans are impacted by this extension, and how many people are actually under the crippling weight of student loan debt right now?
Right. So this announcement today of the pause is really about federal student loans. Those are loans that are owned by the Department of Education. It's not about private loans. So if you have a private student loan from a bank, you're not really included in this. And we know that this is really important because there is a significant portion of Americans who are impacted by federal student loans. 41 million Americans carry student loan debt from the federal government. And so this extension is really about targeting those folks.
Yeah, a big distinction there, and good detail to really bring up, Averi. We know that when it came to the campaign in 2020, President Biden on the trail talked about student loans, but in the White House, he's been notably silent on the possibility of actually canceling student loan obligations outright. So let's say the U.S. government were to do this. What impact would it have on the economy?
Right. So Biden has made that promise, that $10,000 promise, that remains unfulfilled. There are Democrats who want him to cancel more debt. Some want him to cancel $50,000 of student loan debt per borrower. Others want him to cancel student loan debt altogether. But the fact is that if this were to happen, it could have a dramatic impact on the ability of those student loan borrowers to spend or to save, right, to buy things like homes or to save for retirement. But it is important to note that this would come at tremendous cost to the federal government, upwards of $1 trillion in order to do that. So this is something that folks are asking about, but it's going to be a lot of work to get to that point. And I don't think that we're there yet.
Yeah, and Wisdom, you've worked on campaigns around the cancellation of student debt, so you're no stranger to the politics of this. Republican opposition to freezing these payments points to the fact that the U.S. government has not received at least $95 billion in interest in payments. I want to go to Representative Virginia Foxx of North Carolina, who said this. She said, quote, "Another repayment freeze only begets unfairness that is inevitably leveled at both taxpayers and responsible borrowers alike." So what response do you have to Representative Foxx there, Wisdom?
You know, when people say things like this, I think about what's really unfair. What's unfair in this period in time is that the cost of college has drastically increased over the past 4 decades. It's unfair that students have to live in unsafe conditions just to go to school. It's unfair that you can work hard every single day, go to college, get a degree, and still not get a job, right? Student debt cancellation is not regressive, it's progressive. It's an opportunity to right the wrongs of the past, to give us some economic justice, which is racial justice. If we're able to cut $1.7 trillion in taxes for 600 billionaires, we can cancel $1.8 billion in student debt for 45 million Americans.
Let's talk about the Democratic side of all of this, because Senator Patty Murray, Democrat from Washington, said that borrowers are, quote, struggling with rising costs, struggling to get their feet back under them after public health and economic crises, and struggling with a broken student loan system. And all this is felt especially hard by borrowers of color. Democrats in Congress have pressed Biden to use executive action to cancel $50,000 for all student loan borrowers, saying it would jumpstart the economy and help Black Americans who on average face higher levels of student debt. So Wisdom, walk us through how Black Americans are disproportionately affected by student loan debt.
Yeah, so, for the average Black borrower, we have an average of $53,000 in student debt. And so that's why we're advocating for $50,000 or more, because the more student debt cancellation there is, the more progress we have, right? When I think about this idea of where we're at in this period of time and wanting to build back a stronger economy, right? A strong economy looks like, to me, like more Black home ownership, more Black businesses, Black discretionary wealth that folks can use to do whatever with, right? This is really an opportunity to really build, right? You think about the Black community and the fact that we have Black taxes, right? The fact that we have to take care of our families, our mothers, sisters, brothers, uncles, people who are in our community, because that's part of our culture, part of who we are. And so when we're thinking about the way in which wealth has been generated in this country, right, it's really about, property. It's really about the idea of, pursuing this American dream. And so for this opportunity that Biden has to cancel student debt, think about the world where what exists where student debt doesn't exist. It's able to affect us, able to grow and allow us to do better, right? And the fact that he made promises on the campaign trail, right, where we were in the midst of a global pandemic, where young people and people all over the country were working hard each and every day to make sure that folks turned out. Don't you think it's about time to make sure that those folks get what they're deserved?
Roughly 7 million borrowers, Wisdom, as you know, are currently in default on that student loan payment. So it really and getting, wages garnished, it goes a lot to what you're saying here about the impact on them, their families, and their, forward movement and what they're trying to do for their lives and their communities. I want to point out that Education Secretary Miguel Cardona said in this statement that we will continue our preparations to give borrowers a fresh start and to ensure that all borrowers have access to repayment plans that meet their financial situations and needs. And so let me ask you this question, Wisdom. I think a lot of folks wonder this basic question, and I know it seems basic, but it gets pretty complex, and that is, should all students have access to student loans regardless of their capacity to pay it back?
All students should have access to student debt forgiveness, student debt cancellation, right? Oftentimes we'll hear President Biden talk about the borrower at a Ivy League university and saying, well, this is going to help them have even more wealth. That person isn't taking out student debt, right? It's Black and brown borrowers. It's people from low-income communities. It's folks who have been disproportionately impacted by the system day in and day out, right? When we're thinking about wealth generation, we have to think about the debt-to-income ratio and recognizing that for the Black community and for many oppressed communities, right, we are starting at a lower threshold, right? This is an opportunity to even the playing field, right, to make it equitable, to make it accessible, to allow for folks the opportunity to do the things that they set to do when they went to college in the first place.
All right, Averi, Harper, Wisdom, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys helping us put all this in perspective and, really laying down the politics all of this as well. Thank you again.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.